Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, looking at life through a biblical lens. Tonight we're looking at thoughtful Christianity. I ran across an article that someone had written quoting C.S. Lewis. One of the more interesting things, not more interesting, but one of the interesting things about C.S. Lewis is that his death as an event was never really recognized by the world. And it wasn't because he wasn't important or that people didn't care. It just happened the same day that John F. Kennedy was shot. And so it kind of went unnoticed. Not with his family, but with the world at large. C.S. Lewis has written prolifically, and his books are some of the most widely read in English literature, with over 200 million sold worldwide. Here it's been nearly 50 years after his death, and his books still continue to sell 1 million copies a year. His name was Clive Staples Lewis. He was born November 29, 1898. At the age of 19, he fought in the trenches in World War I. He was an agnostic. Agnostics are people who are not sure there is a God, saying, well, I can't know. Agnostic. Someone who is knowledgeable, but there's an A in front of it, agnostic. As an agnostic, C.S. Lewis became a professor at Oxford and at Cambridge. And he credited his friend and fellow writer J.R.R. Tolkien, author of The Lord of the Rings, as being instrumental in his coming to faith in Christ. Tolkien and Lewis were part of a group of writers who gathered periodically around a pot-bellied stove in a store, and they would read the latest chapter of their book, and then they would critique it. And all I remember about those kinds of things, Tolkien used to say, wrote, that you can't write a book unless you have a map. You always have to have a map. Well, you can write a book on theology without a map. But when you read some of the novels, people are telling stories, they have a list usually in the book of the characters and who they're related to and where the towns are and where they go and you have to keep it straight. Tolkien he wrote Middle Earth, about Middle Earth. He created languages, and he would go so far as to record his diary in these languages. And years later, he had several books of memoirs that he couldn't read because he'd forgotten the languages. And as he would highlight these languages in books, people would write in, and they'd want to know where that name came from. And he would write back, I'll have to do the research and get back to you. It was rich. But he and C.S. Lewis were buds. Among C.S. Lewis's most notable books are the Screwtape Letters, a book on miracles, a book entitled The Problem of Pain, The Abolition of Man, The Chronicles of Narnia, which include The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That was the first in the series. I think there are 7. We read these to our children as they were growing up around the dinner table. C.S. Lewis wrote in the Oxford Socratic Club back in 1944, if I swallow the scientific cosmology as a whole, then not only can I not fit in Christianity, but I cannot even fit science. He was a thinker. He said, if minds are wholly dependent on brains and brains on biochemistry and biochemistry in the long run on the meaningless flux of atoms, I cannot understand how the thought of those minds should have any more significance than the sound of the wind in the trees. Makes sense, doesn't it? In Mere Christianity, he wrote, all that we human history All that we call human history, money, poverty, ambition, war, prostitution, classes, empires, slavery, is the long, terrible story of man trying to find something other than God which will make him happy. In Mere Christianity, he wrote, I am trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about God. I'm ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sorts of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with the man who says he is a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must take your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You cannot shut him up for a fool. You can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. In the Screwtape Letters, he wrote, the safest road to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. He also wrote, God cannot give us happiness and peace apart from himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. There are two kinds of people, those who say to God, thy will be done, and those to whom God says, all right, then have it your way. Everyone says forgiveness is a lovely idea until they have something to forgive. He also wrote, Christianity is a religion you could not have guessed. It is not the sort of thing anyone would have made up. It has just that queer twist about it that real things have. Again, in Mere Christianity, he said, the eternal being who knows everything and who created the whole universe became not only a man, but before that a baby, and before that a fetus in a woman's body. Do you hear people saying stuff like that today? Do you read Christian writers and hear that kind of thinking going on? The logic. C.S. Lewis was thoughtful, but he was also a Bible student. He read that Bible, and he didn't read it perfunctorily. He didn't read it as just an exercise. He read it as a book, the book that it is, and he pondered it. Turn on TBN. Go to your average megachurch, contemporary Christian whatever. Go to the average liberal church. Listen to what these folks are saying. They're really not saying very much in the end, in part because they're not spending near enough time with the God who made them. How about you?